Welcome back, everybody. This is Brother Jacob, and this is the False Prophet channel, where we get Islam destroyed and the false prophet of Islam, Muhammad, destroyed on a regular basis. In today's show, we will be exposing Islam, and this is another doctrine buster in our series, and we are continuing the effort to destroy Islam. We already destroyed the doctrine that Muslims say Allah does not enter creation. We destroyed the doctrine when Muslims say that there is nothing in creation like Allah. And we destroyed the doctrine when Muslims say that the Quran is uncreated and that the Quran is the eternal word of Allah. We destroyed all of those doctrines, and those are core teachings of Islam that we have annihilated on this channel. And today, we will be destroying yet another doctrine that Muslims claim, and it's the doctrine of oneness. The doctrine of oneness and the doctrine of monotheism that Muslims claim when they say they worship one God. When they try to come against the Trinity, and you hear them say it all the time, they say, you Christians, you worship three gods. How can 1 + 1 + 1 equal 1? Ha ha ha, 1 + 1 + 1 equals 3. But you Christians say 1 + 1 + 1 equals 1. Ah ha 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 ha. Well, I got news for the Muslims. Infinity plus infinity plus infinity equals infinity. Ah ha ha ha. And they'll laugh at that, because infinity represents God, the Alpha and the Omega, having no beginning and having no end. So infinity plus infinity plus infinity equals infinity. So that's how you get the Muslims busted when they try to say 1 + 1 + 1 equals 1. Ah ha ha, it equals 3. Ah ha ha. So you worship three gods. So with that having been said, let's get into the topic of today. Now, we're going to use two verses to get the Muslims destroyed. The first verse we will show you is Al-Baqarah, the cow, okay? Surah 2, 163. And let's read. And this is the Sahih International Version. And it says, "And your God is one. There is no deity or deity worthy of worship except him, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful." Now, we're not concerned about the merciful and all of that. We're going to highlight the word that we are going to focus on today. And that's the word we want to focus on. One. Keep that word in your mind. One. Okay? We are about to destroy Islam. Keep that one in your mind. Now, since you have the one in your mind, let's go to Surah 42:11. Let's go to Surah 42, verse 11. Like, share, and subscribe. This is Brother Jacob. And this is the clear Quran. and we are reading Surah 42:11. This is the clear Quran, and let's read what it says. Surah 42:11, it says, He is the originator of the heavens and the earth. He has made for you spouses from among yourselves and made mates for cattle as well, multiplying you both. There is nothing like him, for he alone is all hearing and all seeing. So let's highlight the word nothing. I want you to focus on this word, nothing. So focus on the word nothing in Surah 42:11 and in Surah, what was the other verse we went to? It just slipped my mind. In Surah 2:163, focus on when it says one. When it says Allah is one. So let's go back. So focus on one when it says Allah is one. And focus on where it says Surah 42:11. There is nothing like him. Okay? So we got two words that we have to focus on in order to understand what I'm about to tell you. Now, one in Surah 2:163, it says that Allah is one. In Surah 42:11, it tells you that there is nothing like him. Now, before we get into destroying the Muslims' claim of Allah and this oneness, let's ask the Muslims something. When it says him, Muslims, is this him a man? The Muslims will say no. See, whenever you have pronouns describing Allah like him, his, H-I-S, him, the Muslims will say it doesn't mean that Allah is a man. They'll tell you that Allah is not a gender. So when it says him, it's not implying that Allah is a man like his creation, according to the Muslims. Because according to Islam, each and every one of us are the creations of Allah. Am I right or wrong, Muslims? When it says him in 42:11, it's not referring to Allah as a man because he is not like anything in his creation, correct? Because let's read it again. It says, let's highlight it, because you know how the Muslims like to play games. There is nothing like him. Muslims, listen up. There is nothing like him. Now let's focus on the word nothing. Muslims, nothing means nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing means nothing. Okay? So let's explain this, because we about to get them busted on this oneness concept that they have of Allah. Now, it clearly says there is nothing like him. So even when it says him, it can't mean a him like males, a gender, man. It doesn't mean him like a man. Okay? Because nothing is like him. And even when the Quran speaks about Allah, he has hands. The hands of Allah. the shin of Allah. I'm sure everybody is aware that Allah has hands and he has a shin. And it's not metaphorical. It's literal. But the Muslims will tell you that Allah's hands and his shin are not like your hands and shin. It's not like the hands and the shin of men and women or animals. It's totally different. In fact, the Muslims will say you can't imagine, your human mind can't fathom or imagine anything about Allah. Just like this verse says, there is nothing like him. Is that correct, Muslims? Is that correct, Muslims? That's what they say. Okay? Now, let's go back to Surah 2, 163. Let's go back to Surah 2, 163. It's time to get them busted. This is Sahih. That one's not big enough. I want to see a bigger one. Let's go back to Surah 2, 163. Because we're not going to give them any room to escape. We're not going to give them any room to make excuses. And because you know how those Abduls like to do. We're just going to go with this. Surah 2, 163. Let's see what it says. It says, and this is Sahih International, and your God is one God. There is no deity worthy of worship except him, the merciful, the especially merciful. Okay? Now, let's highlight something. Muslims, when it says, and your God is one, how can you prove to us that this one means one as we know it in our human minds? Because 42:11 says that nothing is like him. You Muslims will even tell us that when it speaks about Allah's mercy, his mercy cannot be imagined. It can't even be imagined by the human mind and intellect. We can't even use logic when it comes to Allah. So, in this verse, Surah 2, 163, and your God is one God, tell us Muslims, what does that mean? Because in 42:11 it says that nothing is like Allah. So what does it mean when it says your God is one? Prove to us that it's speaking about the same monotheism that we know with our human minds. Because remember, you can't have it both ways. You can't tell us on one end that you don't know what the hands of Allah is like. You don't know what the shin of Allah is like. And when it speaks upon the mercy, you can't imagine what his mercy is like. You tell us that when it says he or his or any male pronoun, that it doesn't mean that he is a gender. So when it comes to this one, you have to stay consistent with the rest of the claims that you make. When you speak about his hands, you say it's not like our hands. When it speaks about the mercy, you say it's not like our mercy. So don't start being inconsistent when it comes to this one. So when it says, and your God is one, you Muslims must stay consistent and apply the same logic that you use when you say his hands are not like our hands, because our minds can imagine anything about what Allah is like. So when it says your God is one, don't try to fit Allah into the earthly concept of monotheism. Because remember, he is outside of creation. Nothing in creation can define him. Our minds can't imagine what he is like. So when it says, and your God is one, then how can you Muslims tell us that it means one as we know one to mean in an earthly sense and understanding of one? So this is another way to destroy the Muslim claim about Allah is one. And the only way out of it, they will have to be hypocrites. They will have to say, well, you know, Brother Jacob, you are right. We don't understand. Allah's hands are not like anything that we can think of. His mercy is not like anything that we can think of. His shin is not like anything that we can think of. And when he says the word he and his, it's not like what we define as he and his when we're speaking to each other, because we're speaking about Allah. So likewise, when human beings use communication and when we speak to each other using the word one, we know one to mean something that we can understand. One is something that has personality. It's an individual thing. It's a concept. Like you can say we are of one mind because we believe in the same things. Okay? We understand the earthly concept of monotheism, which means the worship of one God, a single God. But Muslims, they place Allah outside of the human brain and the understanding and comprehension of a man. So when it says, and your God is one, and it's speaking about Allah, and at the same time, you can't imagine anything about Allah, that means you Muslims, you can't even imagine what the oneness of Allah is speaking about. Because again, what does 42:11 say? It says nothing is like Allah, which means nothing in this creation is like Allah. So that means even our earthly definition of monotheism it can't be compared to when Allah says one. So basically, my point is, when Muslims go to this verse which says, and your God is one God, because they love to use this verse, they can no longer use this verse to be evidence that they are worshiping one God. Because even though it says one, you have to keep in mind that it's referring to Allah. And any adjective or anything that's describing Allah can't be like any adjective describing anything that's earthly, that man can comprehend in his mind. So when Muslims tell you that Allah is one, you play this video to them. This will get them busted. Because when they say one, they don't even know what they're saying. It sounds good. When you hear one, the first thing that comes to your mind is like one egg in a egg cart or 1 gallon of milk. You see? Or a 1-year-old baby. That's the first thing that'll come to your mind. But no, we're talking about Allah. So likewise, when you read about the hands of Allah, the first thing that comes into your mind are hands. You look at your hands, But no, we're talking about Allah. So erase the picture of your hands out of your mind. So in relationship to Allah, words have no meaning. In relationship to Allah, these words like hands, shin, one, they have no meaning. And even the word his or he, it doesn't mean the same thing as we take it to mean when we are dealing with each other. Because again, you Muslims told us this, that the mind, our minds can't imagine anything about Allah. So don't run now and be inconsistent when it's speaking about the oneness of Allah. You also must keep that rule that you've been saying, and you got to apply it to this oneness. What does this oneness mean? As far as Muslims know, it can mean anything. It doesn't have to actually mean one. Just like when it says the hands of Allah, it doesn't mean actual hands that we can understand or imagine or even visualize. So likewise, the same stands true for when it speaks about the oneness of Allah. Does everybody understand? Now, let's get them busted. Let's go back to Surah. I got something else I want to say to get them busted. Go back to Surah 42:11. This is powerful. This is powerful. So they can no longer tell us that Allah is one. Allah is one. It says, He is the originator of the heavens and earth. And the earth. He has made for you spouses from among yourselves and made mates for cattle as well, multiplying you both. There is nothing like him. What does that mean? There's nothing like him. It means exactly what it says. Nothing is like him. Nothing means no concept, no creation. Nothing means nothing. Nothing is all conclusive. It means concepts like monotheism. The earthly concept of monotheism is not like Allah. Nothing, Muslims, is like him. So now Muslims don't have any more evidence to use when they say that they worship the one God. They don't even know what it means. But I got another way to get them busted. Something else that the Muslims tell us. It's something else that the Muslims tell us. Muslims like to say that Allah is not dependent upon anything. Am I right or wrong? That's what the Muslims tell us. They say Allah is not dependent upon anything in creation. That's what they say. But I got a problem with that. Because if Allah is not dependent upon anything in creation, then Muslims, if that's true, then why is it that the Quran is written in letters? If Allah is not dependent upon anything in creation, then why did Allah send a messenger if he is not dependent upon anything? If Allah is not dependent upon anything, why did he send angels like Jibril? Why did he need Muhammad? Why did he need any of the prophets if he is not dependent upon anything in creation? If he is not dependent upon anything, then why does he even need words, letters? So when you break everything down that I've said, Muslims don't even know what Allah is. The most that a Muslim know about Allah is that you spell his name with 5 letters. A-L-L-A-H. That's the only thing that Muslims know about Allah. They don't know if he is matter. They don't know if he is energy. They don't know what he's made of. They don't even know, as we have explained, they don't even know what oneness of Allah means. They don't know anything about Allah. And then they will say that Allah is not dependent upon his creation. Well, that's a lie. Because Allah is dependent upon those letters. Because without those letters, A-L-L-A-H, Muslims wouldn't know what Allah is. So he is dependent upon something. And words are the creation of Allah. So he is dependent upon something. He's dependent upon your voice, Muslims. If you didn't have air to breathe, how could you say Allah? He's dependent. He's dependent upon something. He's not in and of himself. He needs something in order to solidify who and what he is. And who and what he is, you don't even know. So in order for Allah to exist, since he is outside of existence, he is not matter, he is not a spirit. It's not this what the Muslims tell us. He's not a spirit, he's not matter, he's not energy. His hands are not like your hands. Nothing about him you can understand. So therefore, in order for Allah to exist, he has to depend upon those 5 letters that spell his name. Because if the Muslims did not have those 5 letters that you pronounce the name of Allah with, then Allah wouldn't exist. What I'm saying is, he only exists on paper. Everything else that the Muslims say about Allah, if you erase those 5 letters, A-L-L-A-H, they left with a blank sheet of paper. So he is dependent upon letters. Those 5 letters are in creation. Does everybody understand? Here, Muslims, do this in your mind. Imagine I'm handing you a pen. Imagine I'm handing you a blank sheet of white paper. Now, without writing anything on that paper, Muslims, I want you to tell me, what is Allah? You got 5 seconds to do it. Is Allah energy? You can't say nothing. Is Allah a spirit? You can't say nothing. Is he matter? M-A-T-T-E-R? You can't say nothing. Is he water? Is he air? What is he? Remember, you got this blank sheet of paper in your hand. I'm asking you what Allah is. You can't tell me nothing. You can't fill that paper up with anything. Because your mind, once again, can't speak upon Allah. Now, you got that blank sheet of paper in your hand. Now, I tell you to write down the name of Allah on the sheet of paper. With this black ink, here, Muslim, I want you to write Allah's name down on this paper. Then you do what? You write those 5 letters. A-L-L-A-H. And that proves my point. That's all the Muslims know about Allah. Those 5 letters, A-L-L-A-H. That's it. And those 5 letters are dependent upon the creation in order for Allah to exist, because he's only 5 letters. So in order for those letters to exist, someone in creation must be able to write. Someone in creation must be able to read. Someone in creation must be able to breathe. Someone in creation must be able to see. So Allah is limited to the 5 senses of man, because he is just a name that you write on paper. And without man writing that name on paper, Allah would not exist, because Muslims can't tell you anything else about Allah that's beyond those 5 letters, because they tell us you can't imagine anything about him. He's outside of time and space. So words were created for the usage of things within time and space. But Allah is outside of time and space. But at the same time, these Muslims, they try to apply words that were created for the usage within time and space to Allah, who is outside of time and space. That makes no sense. That makes absolutely no sense. So it all boils down to what I'm saying. Allah is 5 letters on a sheet of paper. And those letters, as I just explained, require people to write them down on paper, to pronounce the name with their voice. Otherwise, Allah does not exist. Allah is not speaking out of the sky to nobody. No Muslim has seen Allah. They don't even know what he is. So Allah does not exist. Even by the definition of the word exist, Allah does not fit any of that word exist. Because something that exists within time and space, and within a concept that our human mind can grasp and understand. It's within the grasp of our human mind. It's within time, it's within space. But Allah is outside of all of that. So he does not exist, Muslims. He doesn't even fit the word exist. He does not exist. And with that, that's how you destroy the Muslim claim of Allah being one. They can't prove that this oneness means what we define with our human minds as oneness. They can't even say the monotheistic concept of oneness, because 42:11 says nothing is like him. Nothing includes everything, including our earthly concepts. So this destroys Islam and the oneness claim that Muslims make. And we destroy the claim that Allah is not dependent upon anything in creation. We destroyed that. We showed you that Allah is just 5 letters on a sheet of paper, and he doesn't enter creation. So Muslims in creation must write down those 5 letters on a sheet of paper. And that's all they know about Allah, is that he is 5 letters. And with that, this is Brother Jacob signing out. And this is the False Prophet channel, where we get Islam destroyed and the false prophet of Islam, Muhammad, destroyed on a regular basis. Like, share, and subscribe. And this is Brother Jacob signing out.